Hello! In this video I'm going to be fitting 3 Victron solar panels to the roof of this Volkswagen Crafter, which I'm turning into a camper van. Now this is a 2021 van and they have some particular fixings which are in this van which I'm going to be utilizing. Now this van is going to be all electric, so I want as much power as I can get, so I put the maximum amount of solar panel which I can get. So I'm going to have 1 across here, I'm going to have 2 on the back, and they're as big as I can fit them on this roof. Well, I've got my own plan of how I'm going to fix these panels to the roof. You can see I've already made a start. I've got some brackets in there. I've got some studs already bolted in the roof. So I'm pretty much ready to go now to put the panels on the roof. Now this method that I'm using, I've designed it all myself and I've not seen it used on any other van builds. Now I think this is a pretty good way of fixing the panels to your van roof. You could use this method on absolutely any van. Because you can adjust each individual fixing, it means that you don't have to worry about the curve of the roof. And it also means you can keep the panels really close to the roof. So I've got about a ½ inch gap at most on my panels to the van roof. The total weight of all the fixings was just under 1 kilo, so it's super light. Everything's made of stainless steel and aluminium, so it's never going to rust. Apart from the aluminium brackets and the sealant, I picked all the nuts and bolts up and washers from Screwfix and Toolstation. And all those stainless steel fixings came in at around £30 to £40. And I've still got lots of bits left over for the rest of the build. Now this video is a lot longer than I was intending it to be. That's because I literally filmed the entire process, which actually took about 2 days, but I did do it over about 2 weeks. So I go into everything in detail, showing you exactly what I did and of course what not to do as well. So hopefully that should save you a whole bunch of time. That's if you want to use this method. Now I quickly just want to do a big shout out to Van Junkies. They've supplied me with all the electrical equipment. They're local family business to me, so I've been able to go in, have a chat with them, and they've managed to sort out some of those facts from fictions which I've heard over the internet. So hopefully I'm installing everything the way it should be. Right, that's enough about that. Right, now let's get on with showing you how I went about installing these 3 panels. So the first thing I'm going to do is to open up this panel. Let's take a look inside. So I've got my knife. Just have to open this up. Now here's my new Victron panel. Everything that I need is actually on the panel. So we've got the wires here, which are just tie up together. Now I'm going to cut out some templates exactly the same size as the panel. I've laid the panels out on the floor just to get the positioning of where they're going to be on the roof and to make sure that the wires are long enough. So I'm up on the van roof and now I've cut out lots of templates to make sure that everything is going to fit where I want it to fit. So there's my MaxxFan. That is off center from the markings on the roof, but I'm happy with that position there because that's going to allow me to get these 3 solar panels in the back here. So then we've got some clearance between the MaxxFan and the first solar panel. And then this is where my clever little bit of clamping is going to go. And I'll explain that to you in just a minute. You can see I've already made a clamp just there. So if I can zoom on that. So I've been just testing that position. I'm using the original holes which are in the roof to attach the panels to the roof. And then we're going to have a small center line down the middle. So now I'm happy that everything fits. I can go ahead, start drilling holes and clamping things down. So I'm going to be using 3 fixings on each side of the panel. You can see I put 3 bolts up through the holes which are already in the van. And like I said, I'm utilizing these anchor points which are there to fit a roof rack or something onto the van. So they're going to be nice and strong. I've already started on the other side to make sure that they do fit correctly exactly as I'm expecting. And there's a stud up through the van with a bracket on it ready to go. Then I'm going to have a small center line in the middle where some more brackets will be attached to the roof of the van. Now in this clip here I was talking about what I should do with this piece of plastic which is stuck over the top of the hole. So the van was sprayed with primer, then there was a sticker stuck over the top of the hole, and then they sprayed white paint over the top of the sticker. So if I remove the sticker there's going to be grey primer underneath. But anyway, the plan which I'm going to have is to then put a big penny washer on top of there like that. I then put a nut on top like this. Okay, and then what we'll do is do this up. Obviously I'll be sealing this down. So I'll put lots of sealant on here and seal all this up. So there's no chance any water is ever going to get inside the van. Then what I'm going to do is second nut on. This is then called a lock nut. Like that. That will then lock this nut into place and it will stop this from moving. As long as we've done it all up tight enough, this will then remain a stud which is then fixed in the van, kind of like permanently. And then what I'm going to do, I then get another nut. I then put that onto my stud, like that. I can then put one of these washers on, like that. I can then get my piece of angle, which I've already made. So I've made these angles up here, and then that's going to go onto the stud. Then I'm going to put another washer on top, like that. Okay, and then I'm going to put another nut on top. Now I can use a lock nut, so this is just a regular nut, but I could use one of these nuts here, which has got the fiber insert in it, and that will ensure that it doesn't rattle undone. But I'm going to put some silicone sealant on it anyway, and then that way it's not going to come undone anyway. So what I do then is I do this up. Now the reason why I say this is slightly cunning is because with this stud here, I can adjust exactly how high the panel is. So now what I can do, I can put the panel into place and then make sure it's in exactly the right position. Then I can drill through from this side. So I'm always going to put some holes inside here. So I'm going to drill this out first of all, and then I can drill into the panel and then make sure the panel's in the right position. And then I can then move the panel up and down. If I want to make the panel closer to the roof, I can make it closer to the roof, or I can raise the panel up, because obviously as the roof is curved, all of these are going to be set at slightly different heights. And that's why I think it's slightly a cunning way. So now hopefully you can see with this template lined up with the panel there. So I've got that angle just there. I then got about an inch gap in the middle, and the other panel is also on the edge over there. So with this inch gap in the middle, to put one of these in. Now if it turns out that I can't get this dead in the center for whatever, it won't really matter too much, because what I can do, I can just offset them. So I can put one here and I can just set the other one offset. So then if it goes underneath the panel a little bit, it's not going to matter. So that's my thinking there. So down inside the van here, this is the hole which we've got, which is in the roof. Now I'm using a 60mm M6 stainless steel bolt and a penny washer. You can see this bolt is going up through 3 bits of metal. We got the roof and then obviously structural parts of the van as well. And here's the 3 bolts in the right hand side of the van. So these will be the fixings on the outside of the panel, and if I draw a straight line across the van, you'll see it comes to the center of the van here, where there's a clear space for me to put some more studs into the van roof. So now I'm just using a bit of alcohol, and I'm going to clean all the holes to make sure that we get a good seal with the sealant. So I'm showing you this so you know that this is not what you want to do. So I'll try doing the bolt up and the nut onto that bit of plastic which is covering up the hole. Now that bit of plastic is very strong, but what's happened is I'm using an M6 bolt, and I believe the hole in the van is actually an M10. So as I've done the nut up, it's actually squashed the washer down into the hole because the hole is bigger. And that's just dragged that plastic in and lifted it up. And of course it's also bent the washer. So I'm going to have to remove these bits of plastic, which are covering up the holes. So the first thing I need to do is to take this off, because this caused me a problem. So I'm just going to get a screwdriver and just pull this off. Alright, and then that leaves us with a primer underneath. Okay, and a hole in the van. There's a bit of a sharp edge here, so I'm just going to get rid of that by using a brand new Stanley knife blade, and then just gently on the side there, just trim off that sharp edge there. Very, very careful. Gentle, just trim that off. You can see that's just coming off there. Yeah, it's like a burr, so we're just removing that just to make it smooth, or flat surface, whatever you want to call it. Okay, so that's that cleaned off. So now of course we get our alcohol again and we clean off any of that sticky residue left from the sticky patch. Give that a good old clean off. So now I'm ready to do this hole just here. I've already done that one there, happy with that one. Already done that one there, happy with that one. So now when we look at this hole here, the hole on the inside is bigger than the hole in the actual van roof. So what's happening is the washers are crushing up into there. So what I've done is I've used a couple of smaller washers to go on the inside. Now here's my smaller washers over here. So I used a couple of just M6 washers, here they are. Okay, and I found that 3 was too many and 2 is just enough. So that's what I'm using, 2 of these washers. Okay, and I'll show you how I'm doing that. I'm putting them on with a big washer and then that 60mm bolt, which is at M6 with a big penny washer on it. So let's just seal that up so it's ready to go in the hole. So here we are, here's my 60mm stainless steel bolt threaded all the way. I'm going to put a large penny washer on it, then I'm going to put these 2 smaller washers on to act as packers and just fill out that hole in between. So what I'm going to do is obviously seal this up because we don't want any of this leaking. So I'm going to put some sealant around here. Now really, it doesn't really matter about the sealant on the inside. It's always the sealant on the outside which does the sealing. But belt and braces, as you know, I like to make sure we do belt and braces with everything. Let's put sealant on there. Then we just put one of these washers on, like that. So it can stand onto there. Bit more belt and braces on top of that one. You can see in this clip I'm using Dow sealant, but later on in the video I start using Silcoflex on everything. If you want to know why that is, then check out my video I made when I did a sealant comparison test. And then a bit more around the threads and everything, just to make sure we're all good. Okay, there we are. Okay, good bit of sealant and a good bit of blobbing on the washer there. It doesn't matter about the excess that oozes out. It's only a tiny bit of sealant, but there we are. That's ready to go in the hole now. So here's my hole in the ceiling here. So I'm going to put some sealant all the way around this side there, like that. Just going to blob that around there. A good old blobbing, and just work it around. Now you can get my bolt, push my bolts up through there, and then I'm going to put it in the hole and wiggle it around, and then the washer should go flush up against this piece of metal, and then those smaller washers are now gone to pack out this bit of metal here, and that's exactly what it's done. So that's now perfect position there. So now we're going to go outside and do that up. Right, let's go. Okay, so you can see we've got our bolt sticking out. There's a sealant oozing out of there, which is really good. And then I'm going to put a bit more sealant on there because we want to make sure that we've got a good seal. So I'm just going to plop some more around the edge here, like that. Lots of sealant. You might think it's overkill, but it doesn't really matter. Like I say, it's all going to ooze out in a minute anyway. Then I'm going to put one big fat washer on like that. Okay, push that down onto it. Then I'm going to put a bit more sealant on top. That washer. Because the hole is an M10 hole and this is an M6 bolt, I'm going to put another washer on for extra strength to stop the washer from bending down inside the hole. Okay, then I'm going to put some more sealant on the threads, like that. Okay, then I'm going to get on that. Now this is a bit messy, so just make sure you got your tissue and your cleaning stuff to clean yourself off. And then we're going to screw this nut down onto that sealant. Now you may be thinking, oh, that's not a good seal. Trust me, if you've got enough sealant on that thread, because as I do it down, as I screw it up, that sealant is going to be working into the threads, and there's going to be sealant all the way up that thread, and that will never leak. And it won't ever come undone either, because it's going to be locked up with the sealant. Now you don't want to hang around with this, because the sealant does start going off. It doesn't take long before it actually starts setting a bit. So now I'm going to make sure this nut is, or bolt is central, so I can move it around. Okay, now I can do this up a little bit more. I could turn the bolt like that. Turn this around, make sure I've got the right size. Okay, we're just going to nip that up a bit. Okay, it's about there. I can feel it starting to go tight now. See that ooze come out? You can still see there's a bit of movement in here. So I'm just going to do it up a little bit more. If those washers weren't in that hole, there'd be a lot more play there. So now I'm going to put another nut on. Like this. This is going to be a lock nut on the bottom to lock that stud into position so it can't ever come undone. Okay, so that's going down. Down, and before we get to the bottom, I'm going to grab so the sealant here, blob it onto the threads again, belt and braces as I like to say. So that's going to seal this next nut. Okay, doesn't hurt to put loads on there. A little bit, like I say, I'm going to wipe off the excess in a minute. There we are. This is why toilet roll's really good. You can just wipe that off then, and you're ready to go for the next bit. Okay, keep winding this down. Now this one's now working into all that sealant. That sealant's working up the threads to make a good seal. Like that. I'm just going to turn that a little bit just to help make sure we've got 10 mil side. There we go. See how there's not much movement at all now, so it doesn't slide around. That means those smaller washers are in those holes, and that's good. That's what I wanted. Yes, it's hardly any movement at all now. Nip that up a bit. So now what I'm going to do is put 2 more on. Now these are going to be, because it's just me. Really, I want someone on the inside, but I haven't got someone on the inside, so it's just me. So this is how you get around doing a bolt up. We then lock these off together. Use 2 spanners, lock them off together. Okay, like this. Do them up tight together. So we do them up against each other, like that. There we go. And then we hold the bottom nut here, this bottom one, with our spanner. And that's going to stop it from turning. So as we do this one here up, like this, it's going to stop the bolts from turning. And again, you can see how that's gone really tight there now. There's hardly any movement in there. So we know those washers are in the correct place. Otherwise, it'd still be slipping around in place. And we can do this up really tight. Now, this time when I do this up, it just goes really tight and stops. When I was doing it before with that plastic on, it just kept going tighter and tighter. Now, that's because the washer was bending and the plastic was bending and moving as well. But this just goes rock solid tight. There we go, that's really tight. There we go. That's proper tight now. That ain't moving. So now I take this nut here and I do this one here. And this is going to lock off that bottom one. So there's no chance it can ever come undone. Okay, got that sealant on there as well. Sealing it all together. And when we get to the bottom here, like that, we now do this opposite. We hold that bottom nut and we do this one up against that nut. So we turn the top nut down onto the bottom one, like that. Very nice and tight. There we go. Now that's now locked off those. Now we can actually undo this top one here. So we undo the top nut, so hold this one still and undo the top nut, like that. Okay, so now those are loose. And now that stud is tight in there, and it's never going to come out. So all you need to do is just tidy up that sealant there now. A bit more toilet paper. Now, of course, they've still got that grey primer there. See, this has started to set. See, it's kind of started going a bit kind of like, it's a jelly. See, it started setting, so that's why you can't hang around. I'm just going to try and bob some light into those threads there on the top. Like I said, this is all stainless steel, so it's not going to rust.
Now I'm just going to put a bit of white sealant over the top of everything. Now this is mainly to protect that primer. Rather than painting it, I'm going over it sealant, and then that's going to hopefully protect the primer and also give belt and braces to all the rest of the sealant, which is all over the bottom of the stud there. Then I just wipe it round, make it all nice and smooth, and that's that one done.
Now we can just adjust these now and put our solar panel pretty much directly onto this now. Right then, so now these are ready for the brackets to go on. So I'm going to screw this down, put my washer on, there like that, put the bracket on, like that, then put another washer on the top, then put another nut on the top. Now that's ready to be adjusted to the correct height when I put the panel on. So next thing I'm going to do is put the panel on. The reason I haven't fitted this onto the panel yet is because I'm not quite sure where it's going to go. So I need to make sure that this, because obviously this is a fixed point now, we can't adjust this. So the panel has to be in exactly the right place on the van before we put the brackets on. And rather than put it onto a template and then mark on a panel and possibly get it wrong, it's always better just to get the whole panel and put the thing in the right place. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to put this on here. Then once I've got these bolted onto the panel, the next ones and then the next ones, they can't be wrong. They're all going to be correct.
Now the aluminium brackets, I actually made those myself. They're made from 3mm aluminium, 30mm high by 20mm wide. And I cut them down to 50mm long. I'll leave a link in the description to where I got the aluminium. Now when it comes to putting the brackets on the panels and drilling through the panels, I wanted to make sure that I wasn't going to damage the panel. Now I've drawn a couple of lines on here. Now that line there is the bottom of the panel on the inside, so how thick the panel is. And I need to put a washer on, so I'm going to put a washer on the back of the panel to support this thin aluminium, so I can't drill a hole any higher than where that top line is. And obviously I can't go down too low because also there's another little angle there and I can't go lower than that. So I'm going to mark a line on the panel here, and that's the ideal spot that I want to drill through. What I actually did was to line the edge of the drill up with the third line from the bottom of the panel, and that just worked out perfect.
And another thing I'll be looking to do is to put a reversing camera on here.
So here's that reversing camera fitted, and you can also see I've attached a couple of floodlights to the back of the solar panels, which are now fully fitted.
So once again, rain has stopped play, but now I'm ready to put the panels on. I've got my 3 brackets over there. I've got 1, 2, 3 ready to go. And I've got 1, 2, 3 ready to go there. I've filled in the holes and holes at the back there. So we are now all ready to go. Put the panels on. So I already have the entry point on the fan. I did that the other day. If you want to check that video out, obviously visit that in the comments below. But you can see I've got these studs in here and they are all ready to go now. So I'm just going to double check that I've got everything in the right place before I go finally fitting these panels. So I've got some markings on the roof here, these here, and I've also got my MaxxFan. Now I just drilled some holes through the roof there to make sure that I've got this MaxxFan in exactly the right place. You can see those 2 holes just there.
So I've just laid my templates back out again on the roof because now all my side brackets are locked tight in position and cannot be moved. So I'm just checking that everything fits okay. I put the panels as far back as they can go to the right up next to the entry point. Now when I came to the MaxxFan, I made a little bit of a boo-boo. I'm not going to go into it on this video. Obviously check out the video on the MaxxFan, but it's to do with the hole in the inlet is different to the hole size that you need to cut. And I've done all my workings from the size of the inlet, but it all worked out fine in the end.
Now this solar panel, the wire's going to go at the front.
Now I've got the panel in location and it's about 5mm away from the entry point. Now ideally I could have moved that entry point just a tad bit closer towards the back of the van because there was definitely enough room on the inside, and that would have meant I could have put my panel a little bit further back. But like I said, it all works out fine anyway.
So what I wanted to show you here was I've tied a piece of string in between that stud there and this stud over here. And what that does, it tells me exactly where the center line is. So if in future I ever wanted to change these solar panels, I want to put something else on here, the stud which I'm going to put in the middle here is going to be dead in line with the other 2 studs. So that stud there, in line with that one. And then I could just fit a bar straight on top, running across, bolted in the middle and the 2 sides. And then I can do exactly the same with these studs over here as well. I've got a piece of string come across. So I'm going to be putting a stud in the middle here. See, it doesn't quite line up with my hole, bit of a shame, but I'll have to fill that one in or something. But we've got my string there ready, so we know exactly where those centers are. So now I've just lined that up, so I've just got a couple of middle of the end of that panel there, and now I'm ready to drill the brackets on the sides here. So here's my bracket, you can see I've got it on the side here, so I'm just ready to drill it. And what I've been doing, I'm just making sure it's about 2mm off the top here. The base is that when I drill it through, and I drill through into this aluminium, it's just, so my bottom of my drill is lined up with that bottom line on here. And that ensures that when I go to put that washer on the other side, when I put one of these washers on the other side of this aluminium, it can fit in there. If it's too low down, it's not going to fit. If it's too high up, it's not going to fit. But that's just about spot on the right place. So let's put that onto there. And yeah, that's about it. I can see the lines through there, so if I can get that sharper on there. I see the line, so I know that needs to go up a bit. I mean, these holes aren't that accurate inside this aluminium because I just drilled it through quite quickly, but that's about there. So where it goes, clamp it in position first of all. So just put that on there, put that on there, and that's going to stop it from moving around a bit. Let's just nip that up. Now this bracket's not going to move as I drill a hole. So that is going to be about there, and I'm going to drill a hole through. Right. Let's see if I can do this without the bracket, without anything moving. I think it's virtually impossible. So I'm going to put the camera down so I can drill the hole. And there we go, that's the hole now drilled. Then I put a bolt in the bracket and in the hole that I've just drilled, and that holds the bracket in the correct place so I can then drill the second hole. And there we go, that's that second hole now drilled.
Now initially I thought this was one piece of aluminium, but it's actually boxwork. So when you drill through, you're actually drilling through one piece of aluminium and then a second piece of aluminium. And the aluminium is very thin. So you can see I'm putting some sealant onto the bracket there. Then I'm going to put it onto the panel. Then I'm going to use bolts and washers to hold it all in place. Now I can't do the bolts up really tightly because it's just boxwork, and the boxwork is just going to crush. Plus I'm going to be using stainless steel bolts. And some people will say that stainless steel and aluminium may cause corrosion. So that's another reason why I'm using some sealant. Obviously it'll also stop water from getting in, and it just makes the brackets and bolts a whole lot stronger. Now I'm using some M6 16mm bolts along with an M6 large flat stainless steel washer, and of course a nut to hold it all in place. Now hopefully you've just seen I put sealant just about on everything there, the nuts, bolts and the washers. And now I'm just doing the bolts up. So I'm using a 10mm socket and ratchet on the back, and I'm just doing up the bolts on the front using the 10mm spanner. Now like I said, I can't do these up really tight because the aluminium boxwork will just crush. So I'm nipping them up tightish, but once that sealant goes off, the nuts and the bolts will never come undone and the bracket will be stuck on there pretty much forever. So it does make a very secure fixing. Then just clean the sealant up, and there we go, that's that one finished. And this is the method I use to attach all of the brackets to the panels. So now we've got that one there done. I've got this one in the middle here done, so that was bolted up. And we got that one there done. And you can see how these just fit kind of like perfectly into position. There we are, look at that, spot on. Happy with that. I just want to quickly jump in here and say if you find this video useful, then please give me that little bit of feedback by clicking on that thumbs up. You can click on subscribe, ring on the bell to get a notification, and of course please share it with all the other van folks who are converting a van. And I'd like to say a big thank you to everybody who's bought me a cup of coffee. It's really appreciated. And of course I'll be continuing with the series of making lots more videos on how I went about converting my VW Crafter into a camper van. Now just to run through what I did with the brackets which are in the middle of the van. So I've got my string line going across so I know where the center is. So I can hold the bracket against this side of the panel, and then I can drill straight through the van roof. So I'm just going to drill through the roof now with those other bolts. I just wanted to show you that here I've got the bolt here. That's the stud going up, and I can see obviously here it's clear. There's no other anything in the way, so when I drill through, the bolt's just going to come straight through without any problem. And the same for this one over here. I've got the bolt just there, again clear space here in the middle, and again at the back there is the other bolt. We just got that hole just there. Not quite sure what to do with that one yet. So hopefully you can see this now. Obviously I've got the bracket on the other side. I've got my piece of string come across, make sure that's tight, which it is. Okay, so that's just about there. Happy with that. Happy with everything else. The panel can't move, it's fixed in position now. So it's just going to put this on top, put it dead on top of where that string is. Just going to move the string to the side, push down on this angle here, push it hard up against the edge of the panel, and then I'm just going to drill straight through the roof. There we go. There's the hole there. Let's do it like this now. Yeah, that's that one done. Then I continue on, I drill the other two holes, and then I drill and fix the brackets to the side of the panel exactly the same as I did before. So this is what I've decided to do on the inside of the van for their center brackets. Now these panels which are on the roof here, they do move a bit, they flex, and obviously the weight of half the panel is in the middle of the van here, and the van roof can move a bit. Now we've got these ribs which are pressed into the roof, which obviously support the roof and stop it from moving and bending. So what I've done is I've got an old bit of aluminium which I've had lying around. I've just cut it to the width of the rib so it goes in between the two ribs, and then I'm going to glue that with silica flex onto the roof, and I'm going to bolt that down, and I think that's going to give me more than enough support for the panel. You can see I've done the same thing on the stud in the middle here, so there's my bracket ready to be glued to the roof. Now the stud at the back here, I spent some time thinking about what to do, because you can see the pressed ribs stop here, and then this part of the roof has no support at all, so it flexes a lot. Of course it's not flat, it's curved, but this is what I decided to do. Okay, so what I've found, I've got another bit of aluminium, a gash bit. If I just put that onto there, okay, if I pull down, it then actually doesn't move at all. That's because I can see that when I'm pulling it, it's just kind of pulling down in like, should I show you? And just that sort of dips down. So it doesn't really matter whether I put a bar that way or that way. It stops it from dipping down in the middle. So yeah, that kind of works both ways. So I think I'm just going to glue that across there tonight, the same as the other bars. So I'm just going to stick that on there. I'm going to clean this surface up, make it nice and shiny, glue that onto there, and then that's just going to stuck. Because now when I try pulling this with that on there, it doesn't move at all. That's solid. So yeah, I'm happy with that. So you can see how shiny that is now and how rough that is. Yeah, it's like completely different. Anyway, the sealant's going to stick to that perfectly, stick to the top of the van, and we are going to be good. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put these brackets on here. I'm not going to put them on top, I mean they're close to going on top, but it's going to make it awkward, so I'm just going to put it next to it. I'd rather put it in front and kind of put it behind, because we've got that beam coming across here inside the van, so that's going to give that a bit more rigidity across here. So I'm just going to mark where that one is, put the bracket on there. I'm just going to mark where that is, and then I'm going to take this off and drill those in there, then drill in the van. Same for this bracket back here. Just going to put that on next to the other one, and again just mark it, get my pen and just mark where it goes inside there like that. And then the bracket on the back there, we're going to work that out later. Now I've taken that left hand panel off again, and now I've got the right hand panel on. You can see the stud there in the middle of the van for the left hand panel. Now I'm going to fit another stud in the roof for the right hand panel. You can see I've marked the hole on the roof where I'm going to drill through, but first of all I'm going to drill the brackets, because obviously that is actually a better way to do it. It's to fix your bracket to the panel first of all, and then when I drill a hole in the roof, it can't be in the wrong place. So I put the bolt in the bracket to hold it in the right place, then drill the second hole, then just clean it all up with a bit of alcohol, and then I get my bracket, bit of sealant, and then stick it all on. So I'm just repeating that process I did before. So I put the bracket on, then I just put a bit of sealant on the outside so the bolts are sealed nicely. I put 2 bolts into the holes, then I get my 2 large washers and I put those on the back to support that thin aluminium on the back there. Put those 2 washers on. There we go, that's the 2 washers done. Then I get my 10mm socket, I put the nut into the socket, put a bit of sealant on it, put it on the back, do up the bolt at the front, and then repeat the process for the second one. There we go, do up that bolt, and now I can just do it up with a spanner on the front there. Ties in both of those bolts up, and like I said before, I kind of nipping them up tight, but not too tight, because I don't want to crush that aluminium boxwork. And then I just got to clean off that bit of excess sealant, which is all splurged out. Not going to worry about the back, because no one's going to ever see that. But this is just making the front look just a little bit neater. There we go, clean that all off. Now that bracket's all finished, I can now put the panel back down on the roof. Then I drill through the roof to make the hole for the stud. And here's what the nuts look like on the back of the panel. Now the bracket at the back, someone had already put a hole in the roof before I had the van. What I've done is I just put a large penny washer on it and did up a bolt and a nut and sealed it down. Now this bracket is just going to fit here. I can just get a penny washer in between those 2 bolts. So I just do the bracket onto the panel, and then I can just drill through the roof like I have with all the others. Now what I decided with this stud here is I didn't need to put any supporting angle across the roof, because it's right next to this other beam which comes across the roof, and of course it's going to be in between the other bit of angle which sits right here. So now I'm ready to put this next panel on. It's going to go on here crossways. This is going to be nice and easy, because it's just a case of drilling through the roof now. I don't have to line up any beams or anything. So I'm just going to put a bracket in right in the center here, put a spar across and drill through down there, put one in the middle, spar across here, and then I'm just going to put a bracket on the outside here, and a bracket on the outside over here, and the same over there and over there. I just got to make sure when I go down in the van that there's no beams going across in the way. I've already checked it, but I'm just going to double check to make sure there's nothing in the way. And I just went through my mind, instead of putting a bracket in the middle here, so instead of putting the fixing here, if I put it out by this pressing in the roof,
that's going to be nice and sturdy, so that's why I'm going to put it in there. I'm going to put my stud in there, and then that's going to be good and solid. Yeah, I'm going to be happy with that.
Now with this front panel, I can drill the brackets with the panel down on the floor, which is a lot easier. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm just drilling the center bracket, and then I've already marked where the bracket's going to go on the panel, so I can mark that one. But I only drilled the front center one and the 3 back ones.
Okay, so I'm just trying to decide on the final position of this front panel here. Make sure I've got it widthways and also the brackets in the correct place. And pretty much it's just center line here, we've got to aim for here. And I just want to make sure those brackets are going to fit there. So what I've done is I've just turned those 2 brackets sideways like that. This one's, that one's just slipped, but that one's just there like that. Okay, and I can push that up against the panel there, so I know that these are all the way back. I could trim those brackets back, make them a tiny bit smaller, but I've just put a pilot hole through there. So I just drilled through there because I wanted to see where it's going to come out in the van. So there's my little pilot drill there. So I just drilled that through there, and it's kind of come out in a perfect position. So I'm going to go back inside, I'm going to drill some more holes back up through the roof. Now there's my pilot hole. It's come through right there. So it kind of works out that my workings out were just about perfect. There we go, and I can actually see the aluminium there.
Now I don't know why I decided to drill these from the bottom, because all the other holes I've always drilled through the bracket from the top. And I'll tell you that in just a second.
So there we go, it's my last 2 holes, that one there. Let's see if this is going to line up, as hopefully it will. Oh, look at that. Look at that. Yeah, see, what I should have done is put the bracket on here first of all, and then drill down through the roof like I have done with all the others. But it doesn't matter. Hole is slightly going to be elongated, but I'm not too worried about that. Now it's actually a little bit better, lines up a bit more perfectly. So yeah, happy with that. Just needs a bit deburring now.
Now I'm just grinding a bit of the beam away here so I can fit the bolt up into the hole.
Okay, that's enough. So I can see that the washer's going to go on there now, like that. And then the bolt's going to go up through, like that. And then that's going to sit in there like that. Okay, so that's going to be perfect there. So now I've finished this one here. I've got this one as my adjustment nut. I could screw the bracket straight down onto this stud, but I thought I'd just put an adjustment nut on it so I can raise the panel up and down. Anyway, obviously I've still got exactly the same. One nut bolting it down to the van and the other one just locking it down, so there's no chance the stud can move or the bracket can, or the stud can come undone because it's locking that nut tight. But when I do these nuts here up, now you might have seen I haven't capsulated this one here, so I haven't done sealant the way around like I did on the side, and that's because I'm just screwing it directly down onto the paint. So I've sealed it all the way around, sealed the nut, but don't need to have that capsulation all over it. So that's why that is. Now I can put my washer on the top, and now I can put my bracket on top of there. So let's do that. So now I've got my datum point with this bracket, but I've got my bracket on, studs coming through it. So now I can go to the bracket at the back here and I can drill that hole straight through, making sure that I keep this square with the other 2 panels. So that's what I'm going to do next. I'm going to drill that one there in and put the stud in there. And then this panel is then going to be locked in position. It's not going to be able to twist, and I can finish off these other 4 on the 4 corners. Right, let's get on with drilling that one just there then. So now I've drilled that hole in there, I can now take the panel back off again and put the stud in position, and that's just going to lock the panel in the correct place. So now I've drilled the 2 holes. The one's in here, you got the other one over there. Now I don't need to take the panel off now, and I can go and drill the other 2 at the front, one there and one there, and then I can take the panel off and put the studs in. So now on this front panel here, I've got that stud in there. I just used a bit of threaded bar there, that's why there's a nut on this side. And I've already put this one here in. I've packed out the top with some washers, and I'll show you how I did that on this one over here. Gap it in between here, and I don't want to just do the bolt up and squash this. It might actually pull the roof down, so I don't want to be doing that. And I know there's like sticky stuff in between here, which the roof is kind of stuck to hold this panel in place. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pack that out with some washers. And I use 3 penny washers on the other side. But first of all, I just had to clear out the sticky stuff that's in between the 2 bits of metal. So I just use a hacksaw blade, and I just went in there and I just cut it out basically, because it's just sort of sticky stuff. And this one's quite hard, the other one's quite soft. So I'm just going to cut that out of there. Don't know why this is so hard. Oh, it's just the burr I was going through. But you can see there is the sticky stuff is coming out now. So now I'm happy. I've cleared out all the black stuff. I'm just going to fill it up with some sealant. Nice big blob of that in there. Okay, then I'm just going to put the washers in there. And then in between the washers, I'm just going to put some sealant again. So there's my washer, put a big blob of sealant on it. And it's going to help it all stick together nicely. And just going to make sure there's going to be no leaks. There we go, last washer in there. These up. There we go. There we are. That's lined up there nicely now. Now I can put my bolt in. Like that. Lots of sealant oozing out there. I can just blob what's ever left over here, just to protect these scratches. I might just spray some paint down inside there later on. So I've already cleaned this with some alcohol. So I'm just going to put some sealant around bottom, because this is the bit we want to make sure is definitely sealed. Put some on the threads again, like that. And I got my penny washer, so that's going to go down there like that. Squidge that on down, like that. Then I should see plenty of ooze with that, which there is. A bit more on the threads, seal around the bottom. I'm going to do this up nice and tight because I'm squashing all these washers together and that bit of metal. Right, let's see how tight that goes. So that's definitely good. Undo my lock nut. See how well this lock nut works there. It works really well. You can now take off that nut. I'm going to leave that on because we need that later. Just before I get to the bottom, wipe off some of this ooze. Just stick it on this bottom nut here. So as this one does up onto it, it just squeezes out that sealant there. And again, fills up any gaps. There we go. Okay, that's done. Now hold that bottom nut, stop it from turning, and then do this one onto it. There we go. Good and tight. Now we just got to wipe off the ooze. Put washer on. Then the bracket. And there we go. Look at that. It's virtually perfect.
Now I've just elongated this hole in the bracket slightly.
And now the bracket fits tightly up against the panel, and I can just move the panel about a little tiny bit with a little bit of slack on there, which is what I want.
Now in this clip, I'm just pointing out that where the stud comes through the roof, it's on a slight angle. So now I've done it, the bracket is on a slight angle as well, but that's where it has to be. And I've got to now drill the holes in the position with the bracket on that slight angle. Now, if you're using this method and your stud is coming through the roof on a real angle, you won't be able to drop the panel down onto the bracket unless you elongate the hole in the bracket in the direction of the angle.
Yeah. There we go. So I just wanted to make sure the panel was level. So what I did, I just measured from the top of this ridge here, just here, to see how high the edge of the panel was. Measured that one there as well. This one is also 45. So I just trimmed these bolts down a bit because I didn't want them sticking up proud. So I just cut these down a bit, and I'm going to make all these about the same size. So I'm going to take about 20 mil of all these middle bolts here, make them all the same lengths. So also those two on the end there. Right, so get cracking with that.
So now I'm going to show you how I went about fitting those support angles on the bottom of the roof. So what I've been doing is I've got my angle, I'll put a nice blob of sealant all over the angle like that, and then I'm going to just spread it all around so I cover the angle completely in this sealant so I know there's a good coverage all over it. Then I go around it again with some more sealant to make sure there's a really good bond between the roof and this angle. And obviously then just stick it on the roof, making sure I get the hole in the correct position. Then exactly the same again, I get a bolt with a large washer on it, lots of sealant around that bolt, and just push it up into the hole. And then I do it up really tight from the roof, and hopefully now you can see it's supported the roof really well and it hardly moves at all. And then I just got to repeat the process for all the other brackets. And I fitted a much longer one on the back here, and that really stiffened the back of the van up. Now before I go bolting them down, I'm going to cut the hole here for the MaxxFan, only because it's going to make a load of metal filings and I don't want those going underneath the panels and getting stuck down there and then making the roof of the van go all rusty, so I want to cut that into there. See, we've still got this bit here. It's going to go on top of there. This thing is so flexible, it's just bent. But anyway, what I wanted to see was how close the MaxxFan comes to this panel here. See if I need to do anything with it. So this just sits on top of here. Just drops into position. Like that. Oh, look at that, man. That is splendidly dido. Look at that. So we've got a, what, a couple of millimeters gap there? Yes. Jeez. I love it when a plan comes together. There, so that is good. Just can't get in a bit closer. See that? So I've got a nice... So now I've got my MaxxFan cut, I've got all my stud work in, and I'm ready to fit my solar panels. And of course the MaxxFan. Now don't do what I did here. I've made a completely separate video on this because those little bits of swarf, they were a complete nightmare. And I didn't just have to wash the roof, I had to polish it and get all those little filings off. So check out that other video if you want to know what not to do when it comes to cutting holes in your roof. Because I ended up having to polish the entire roof, which in the end was probably a better thing anyway. So the final thing then I'm going to do before I fit the panels permanently onto the roof is I'm going to clip the wires to the bottom of the panels so I don't have to do that up on the roof, and all I need to do is to then plug the leads together, because I don't want to be driving along and hearing those connectors or the wires banging up and down on the roof or wearing things away if they're rubbing. Now I'm wiring this up in series, so it's just a case of joining plus to minus and minus to plus, and it's pretty straightforward. This will give me a high voltage which will make the panels wake up earlier. And one last thing which I'm sure is going to be controversial, but I'm not fitting any fuse to these panels because it's just not needed. Again, there's loads of videos out there telling you that you've got to fit fuses, but for this installation I believe it's just not needed. And of course, if you want to know more about the series wiring up and why I'm not fitting the fuse, check out the video which I'll be making after this. So I've just finished fitting 3 solar panels onto my new van roof. The sun's kind of just setting there, so just where the sun is, just there, so there's not much power on there. And I look at my multimeter, thought I'd give it a test. 63 volts. There we go. I've just put my leads onto the wires coming off, and there we go, 63. Oh, the sun's just gone behind a cloud, now I've got 62 volts. That is pretty good. I am really happy with that. That's going to power our van on induction hob and everything else really well. Happy with that. Now all I need to do is just put the wires down from my entry point. Obviously you saw me fit that. You can see, look at that, it's clear sealant. Really good job on there. Really liking that. So yeah, that's the next job, to poke these wires down through there. First of all, I'm just going to cover up the ends of these because these are live and got power coming off there. Another quick tip, just put some red tape around your plus cable. So when you've got the 2 cables down the van, you'll then know which is plus and minus. So here's my second one. I've got the rubber gland on it here, which I compressed down onto the wire to seal it, and I've got my nut on it. Then I just got to push it in the hole and hopefully line it up with my big hole on the inside, and that should be about it. There it is. Nice and easy. It wasn't hard at all. Then now it's going to go down inside there. Now I'm just going to put these nuts on so these cables just don't fall back out again. That could be really annoying. So I'm just going to put that nut on there and put the other nut on the other side. I'm not going to do them up tight yet. It's just literally just to hold it there. Still got plenty of movement there, plenty of movement there.
Right, let's go and grab it on the inside. Now I tried pulling this down with a piece of string, but it turned out in the end the easiest method was just to pull it through my hole there and then poke it down the pipe or down my conduit and do it that way until it comes out the bottom, which is just about to. It's a little bit more, and there it is. It's come out the bottom there now. So we're just looking through the hole there. There's my bit of conduit. I can now pull that bit of string and pull that bit of conduit right up into that entry point, and then I can just tie that off or fix that off in some way, and maybe just put some sealant on it so it just holds that in position. And then those cables are nice and secure. They're not going anywhere. They're not going to rub on anything. So yeah, really happy with that. So I did a bit of tinkering around with that. Right, so now my solar panels are all finished. I thought it'd be a bit of fun whilst I'm not ready to put this in yet, but I thought I'd just put the charger, the MPPT charger on it and just see how much power I've got coming off these 3 panels. It's bright sunshine now, midday. So yeah, I'm gonna just wire this up and just see what I got. Bluetooth it to my phone, and I'm gonna see what we got coming off this. So there we go, you can see we've got some power on it. So I'm gonna look on the app and see what I've got. So on the Victron Smart Solar app, I was getting 62.63 volts. Obviously there's no amperage because nothing is connected to it, but it's just good to see it's all working. Right, that's about it then for this solar panel installed on this VW Crafter medium wheelbase. Now I'm really happy with the results. The panels are on it really nice and solid. They've got a nice angle on them, so water's hopefully not going to sit and pool and leave dirty marks. I just fitted the reversing camera, and I've also added 2 floodlights to the back of the panels here, so the back of my van's going to be really well illuminated if I'm reversing or I just want to floodlight the back of the van. If you want to see any of these videos, obviously check in the description below where I'll leave links to all my videos. And as usual, you can give me a thumbs up, click on subscribe, ring on a bell to get a notification, and of course share it with anybody else who's looking to do a van conversion and add some solar panels. And of course, a cup of coffee is always really appreciated. Bye for now, and I'll see you in the next video.